every time. Yeah.
Cheers. Hello, everyone. Cheers. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today Innovation Coffee. What's it called? Dev Summit teaser. We got a lot of things to show you today. It's going to be a fun episode with two guests. But we'll start with a bit of a remembering what we had last time. So last time we had an awesome first episode with the SparkFun team, and we actually looked at some of the cool stuff that they've just done. We saw actually the first live demo with the new Artemis board running Embed OS. Robert, what do you think of that?
I thought it was awesome. It was super exciting. I mean, not only did we get to speak with Kirk, the CTO of SparkFun, but he brought on two of their engineers, and they showed some demos. We got to see ARM Embed running on Artemis. They also, tied it in with the Arduino IDE, ran some cool demos, and all of it, it was recorded. So you can actually go back and watch last week's episode. Alessandro, I think they also provided a code, right? A discount code?
Absolutely. There's a discount code in the episode. You could find it in the episode, but also underneath, if you go on YouTube, there's in the description a discount code that you could use to buy the latest board with a discount.
Yeah, in fact, every single thing we talked about in that episode, so, we talked about all these URLs and places that you can go access resources when the engineers were going through these demos, all in the description, definitely worth checking out. So there's the link, bit.ly, Innovation Coffee 1.
Yeah, and the cool thing is that SparkFun is actually providing all the hardware for Arm DevSummit this year. So actually, a big thanks to them for helping us with the hardware. And actually, one thing that we wanted to, we said this was going to be a Arm DevSummit teaser, but we've actually got a big discount code that I think we mentioned on Twitter. We've got a discount code, a 50% off for a specific workshop. So the Pelion workshop has a 50% discount code, and this is the promo code Cypress. We're actually going to get to hear from one of the engineers working on the workshop, the lead of the workshop actually, about what this workshop is all about towards the end. But I just wanted to make sure you had the discount code with you to sign up to actually get the hardware, because all the workshops that have hardware will allow you to get the hardware right away. So really, really looking forward to talking more about this workshop at the end.
I think we need to stress. I do think we need to stress just a little bit. Today is the last day. If you're signing up for a hardware workshop at Arm DevSummit, today is the last day. So make sure you take that code. Again, this will all be in the description of the video, but make sure you take that code and go sign up for this workshop, because otherwise it won't show up in time for the event itself. So yeah.
Yeah, and to that point, actually, that's really important. There is there is a blog by SparkFun where they describe all the workshops that they're supporting with their hardware. So yeah, go check that out, and you can find all the workshops. Like, you better sign up today, because as Robert said, otherwise you won't get your hardware in time. And with that, I think we can actually move on to today's special guest. So we're really happy to have our special guest today with us, because it's not only an amazing person, an ARM innovator, but also a good friend. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Robert, do you want to introduce him?
Yes, an emphasis on the friend. This guy's amazing. David, please, David Tischler, please join us on the call.
And like magic, I appear.
Hey, David.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for the kind words, Robert and Alessandro. I appreciate it. As you mentioned, I'm David Tischler. I am an ARM innovator and have been for a couple of years now. I've known you guys for a long time, and I'm excited to join you guys today. We're going to have a lot of fun in a few minutes when we do an unboxing for the workshop I'm going to be running at Arm DevSummit. So do you guys want me to give a quick background now, or you want to save that for a little bit?
I think it's good let's save the background. We're talking about the background of the workshop.
Myself as well, but yeah.
No, let's do background of yourself.
Cool.
I always like doing that at the beginning of these, build a
Yeah.
little bit of credibility. So yeah, if you could maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Makes sense. Yeah. So you guys have heard this story before, like I said, I've known you guys for a long time. So I'll give this little story for the sake of the audience. But if you guys want to take a nap, you want me to just wake you up in a few minutes? You guys taking out? Okay, get out of here. I'll wake you. I'll call you. Just come back in like 5 minutes. No. So I'm David Tischler. I have been working in the ARM ecosystem for a couple of years now. And I got my start actually at a large hosting provider here in the United States called GoDaddy. And they had rows and rows and rows of servers that would sit idle all day long as customers were, renting these servers for like VPSs and dedicated boxes and things. And I would sit there and just watch these servers burning electricity. And I started to think to myself, so now wait a minute. There are more and more powerful devices getting smaller and smaller every day. And it was right about the time that the first original Raspberry Pi had come out. And I started to think, a lot of what these customers are doing really could truly be done on a Raspberry Pi or similar type of device. 96 boards had just gotten their start as well. And so I started to think, hang on a minute, let's see if we can run some of these server applications and server type workloads like Apache or MySQL on some of these smaller devices. And so after some experimentation, I started a small startup called Mini Nodes, and I've run that for a couple of years now, and I've pretty much handed off most of that to a colleague now, who you guys also probably know. But from there, I started to think more and more about these small devices going out into the field, and that's how I then got involved with Balena. And Balena is an IoT fleet management platform running Docker containers on small form factor devices, like a Raspberry Pi or an NVIDIA Jetson Nano or something. There's about 40 or 50 different devices that are supported. And so for the past year or so, I've spent most of my time thinking about what kinds of workloads can be run at the edge on small IoT devices. It's really fascinating. There's so much innovation in that space. So hopefully that gives a little background. Okay, you guys can wake up now.
I'm here. Oh. Yeah, thank you. David, as always, appreciate it. I love that story, even though I've heard it a million times.
Yeah.
Cheers. And let's move on now, because we do kind of have this sequence that we want to go through. So first, it's teasing Dev Summit, right? Because Arm Dev Summit is going to be the virtual event of the year that everyone should be going to, because not only is it virtual, you can join if you have internet and a computer, but it's free, or a phone, but it's free also, right? So you get to go to this event, you get to experience industry professionals from all over the world, including yours truly, and of course, David and Alessandro, who are on the call here, as well as everyone else that's out there doing amazing things with ARM. I have a quick list. I'm just going to kind of read through this list to kind of summarize all this stuff. You go to devsummit.arm.com. You can kind of get all of this information if you just kind of pull things from all over the place. But I just want to give you some quick snippets here as to what you can expect from ARM Dev Summit. And then we're going to dive into some more intricate pieces about it. There's the link, devsummit.arm.com. Go check it out. Register again for free. So this event is happening on October 6th, and it's going to go all the way through October 8th. So 3 full days of nonstop content, not 24 hours. It's going to go from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. That's Pacific time, to my understanding. So what's that, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 5 hours, 5 full hours of content for 3 days in a row. This consists of 8 different tracks, okay? So if you go to the website and you go over to the agenda, you're going to see 8 different tracks. This is all the way from like high performance computing to robotics to Internet of Things, basically everything under the sun. If you're talking about technology, it's on ARM and it's at ARM Dev Summit. So 8 tracks, 10 keynotes. This is really cool. There's some amazing speakers at this event, and definitely recommend go checking them out and prepare. Add that to your agenda. 80 plus sessions. So these are technical sessions. And in a lot of cases, like at least for this episode, we're going to be talking about workshops. But 80 sessions, this is not only just one speaker sometimes. We're talking about over 100, maybe even 200 speakers, right? This is definitely an opportunity to go find some great things that you can relate with or that you want to learn, and go sit in one of these sessions while you're hanging out during the week. 8 sponsored sessions, so just adding more to that. 8 panels, and these are opportunities for people to ask questions and relate to the topic and talk to these industry professionals even more. 10 workshops, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. A few more workshops. We have 2 of which in this episode we're going to kind of tease a little bit more and dig a little deeper into. 4 office hours. These office hours are paired with workshops to kind of give a little bit more intricacy to the topic. Innovation Tech Talks, there's going to be 3 of these. And then you have ecosystem networking sessions. These are kind of like birds of a feather sessions. People might be more familiar with that term, but just a great opportunity to go in and just hang out with, like people like us on the call, other developers from around the world who kind of all relate again on similar topics and want to kind of push these technologies further. So all of that in a nutshell. You can imagine we're talking about hundreds of things to do, hundreds of people to hear from, and thousands of things to learn. This is just, it's so much going on. So hashtag Arm DevSummit, go search it on Twitter, go find all the cool stuff that's happening.
I was just going to add a couple of things. I don't know if the Birds of a Feather actually, or the networking events are actually already public. Are they?
Yeah, there's a bunch of them that are already on the agenda. So you can go.
We talk about it? Can we talk about a couple of them then? I think there's going to be some interesting ones, right? There is actually one with Massimo Banzi, CTO of Arduino, and actually Eben Upton as well, CTO of Raspberry Pi, and both founders of their companies. And it's going to be interesting to be able to talk to them directly, right? And ask them questions and figure out, what they're working on and the cool stuff that they're doing. So yeah, it's going to be exciting. And, I wanted to kind of ask David a question, because actually David has been going on actually at the TechCon, Arm TechCon for the last, I think he's been at the TechCon for the last 2 years or more than that?
Yeah, has it been 2? Well, I need to think now. Hang on, my memory's starting to fade. Yeah, I've been at the past 2. Yeah, I've been at the past 2 of them. So this will be my 3rd. Slightly different this year, but yeah.
Exactly. So I was going to say, actually, it's interesting because in October, some of you might know, in October, we usually had this big ARM event called Arm TechCon, right? And this year, Arm TechCon doesn't exist anymore. But what we have in its place is actually Arm DevSummit, right? So the event we're talking about today. And actually, I wanted to ask you, David, what was your kind of feeling of Arm TechCon, and how do you think, this year's event is going to be different?
Well, I definitely have to admit that I love going up to Silicon Valley to hang out with you guys every year in October. So I am going to miss that, because that's such a great chance to just go and hack and hang out and have a few beers as well. But also there's, a lot of content that I like to catch. I've spoken at the past few of them, but after my talk is done, then I go and check out the rest of them. So I gain a lot of knowledge by just simply attending other sessions. All right. So now with that said, yes, I'm going to miss that aspect. But what I will say is that Arm TechCon, for the past 2 years that I have been there anyway, there is definitely a lot of marketing, and there are business folks there that would join, come in for a couple days and do some business, do some deals. I get that, but it's not my area of expertise, my core competency. I don't really care about that kind of stuff. So, it definitely had a marketing feel, whereas this event is totally geared towards developers. Okay, now that's more my style, right? So that's my audience that I like to engage with. So now being focused more on developers, I feel like I'll have an audience for my workshop made up of folks who really are there and are passionate about the technology more than, maybe the headlines that are generated. So, it's a little bit of a opinionated viewpoint on it, but that's, it's more in line with my area of expertise.
It's funny because we haven't paid you for this, but actually you said exactly what I wanted.
It's a check in the mail.
we didn't prep you for this, right? Like,
no,
right?
I just joined the live stream.
I mean, to be fair, like we haven't seen the event yet, right? Like it's going to be the first event of its kind, so it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of it. And my hope is that, exactly what you said. My hope is that there's going to be more software developers, more interest on software. And I think Robert might have a follow-up question on that.
Boy.
I mean, I could see in your eyes that you I know you like software, right? And I could dive into the reasons.
Where is this going? Do I need to drop off?
I have a comment, but maybe this will lead into a question. I mean, I want to kind of echo everything that David and Alessandro said. I mean, I think that it's definitely a nice transition. I love to see ARM developers that aren't just the ones that are, developing the silicon and the ones that are, making the hardware. I love to see all this enablement happening on ARM, right? I mean, like, this is when you start to see all these just verticals pop up all over the place, and then horizontally helping each other and making just amazing things, amazing innovations. And so seeing developers, like you, David, I follow chats and all these communities all over the place, and you start to see people that are enabling something, and then someone takes this thing that was enabled on this particular chip, and then they put it on this piece of hardware, and then next thing you know, they build something amazing, right? Mm-hmm. So I am very happy to see all these developers join together in one place. The only darn downside that I see is, of course, like, we're just all doing this in a virtual event, like, I think what you just said, David, is like, it's always fun to, meet with people in person and share a conversation and have that hallway track. And so this is where I think that Arm DevSummit is trying to do a really good job in this. We'll see how it turns out, because we are really trying to kind of mimic this or echo this hallway track with these ecosystem talks, right? So, like, in between your sessions, while you're waiting for your workshop or while you're waiting for your session, go attend one of these ecosystem chats, come hang out with us, and, have a conversation in the hall, right? And so hopefully this is kind of what it turns into. So we'll see, but I'm very excited about it. Yeah, no question, just a very long comment.
Yeah, no, I think it's interesting, and I think I guess what I was getting at is I thought you were going to ask it because you've asked this question many times, right? And I think what I was kind of getting at is the fact that, David, you started from hardware, right? And you kind of I've seen you kind of grow in the software space more and more, right? Like, you started off with like a lot of hardware expertise, and eventually you got to a company like Balena that actually is doing a lot of software, right, to facilitate the work of developers, right? And I wanted to ask, I guess, your take on where are we going in the IoT space? Like, how is the world changing, or is it is it the same?
It's something I've spent a lot of time thinking about, and I think it kind of exactly mimics what you just said and what Robert just said as well about software development, right? Okay, so for the past decade or more, everything had been all about just put it in the cloud, just put it in the cloud. AWS grew to this enormous behemoth. Nobody wanted on-premise data center. Nobody wanted hardware. Nobody wanted to deal with any of the cabling and infrastructure and plumbing and all of that. Just let the cloud take care of it. But now I think there's been a tipping point, and the tables have turned a little bit, probably a lot of bit. And workloads are actually being pushed back from the cloud to the edge. And I think that's what the next 10 years looks like, is all about bringing workloads back from the cloud and distributing them closer to the users. And whether that is, a small form factor device like a Raspberry Pi or something similar, perhaps maybe a little more enterprise grade, or the smallest of small devices with the MCUs, the Arduinos, the Feather, the, you know, other small types of devices. I think really that's what the next 10 years looks like. And I think I've tried, at least I hopefully have tried to like position myself towards that. You know, I don't want to be in the business of building, you know, a horse and buggy. I want to be in the, you know, what does the future look like? So I think that's probably, you know, kind of where the industry is headed. So yeah, you know, software is what enables that.
So you said, yeah, you mentioned something interesting, how like, you know, the workloads are moving to the edge, right? And it's, I think, you know, I kind of feel it's almost like a cyclical thing, right? We're going through this cycle now of like, you know, moving everything to the edge, and it might go back to the cloud at some point. I think that, you know, there's also, you know, we also probably need to mention that there is a balance to hit, right? Like there is some stuff some things that could run and make sense to run on the cloud, and some things that should run on the edge because it's just more efficient to run it where the data is, right? And I think it's quite interesting because there's a lot of options that you have in terms of where you run your workloads. And I guess, you know, the cool thing is like with things like Balena, you're actually giving the option to run it on the edge in an easier way, right?
Yep. The Balena Cloud is all about fleet management, from your device management through to your workload management. And so the entire premise there is that you have your underlying host operating system. Balena OS is built on Yocto, so it's a minimal environment, you know, minimal by design. And then everything that you're running is in a container. And so you bundle up all of your workloads into Docker containers and push them to the devices. That makes it easy to update them as you release new software. You can just push it right over the air, you know, build a new container, replace the old one. Especially really, really interesting is the AI stuff, because as your models improve, you can push a new container. As you learn more and your algorithm gets better, push a new container. You know, you want to think about bandwidth constrained devices. If you're talking IoT, you know, perhaps you're way, way off the grid and you only have a 2G or a 3G connection. So you need to think about precisely what you're bundling and pushing. But the point is it makes it easy to update the devices and update your workload just running in containers.
I remember this kind of goes taking both these points that we've just been talking about. But, I've heard some information, some data that not too long ago, like 70% of the traffic that was moving, 70% of all traffic was moving from the cloud out to the device, right? So that was like YouTube and Netflix, right? Like these are like the two huge entities that were just moving stuff out to the device. And now as more devices hit the endpoint, like the end user, you have sensors and cell phones and all these things, data is actually now streaming in the opposite direction, right? So with all these points at the end, it sounds like Balena has a really great solution, you know, to kind of allow developers to develop across a wide range of devices that are at this edge point or at the end user. But I mean, I'm kind of interested. I've talked to some people about this. You know, what about like in a system? And I'm just going to bring up a use case, and I don't know if Balena can solve this issue. But like, what if you had like a pipeline that goes across the entire United States, right? That's like 3,000 miles, a pipeline, and you're trying to monitor this pipeline, and you put all these sensors in there. Explain how maybe Balena could be used to monitor water flow, pressure, gas line, whatever it would be, just some sort of use case there.
So let me think about that for a split second. All right, let's just say hypothetically, sure, you've got a 3,000 mile long pipeline. All right, and you put a pressure sensor. It's going to cost you some money, of course, to do this, but you put a pressure sensor every mile of that line. What you would want to do then is manage and maintain 3,000 devices, right? So you've got I'll just use an example of a Raspberry Pi because it's in my hand, but there's certainly specialized hardware available as well. So, okay, you've now got 3,000 essentially miniature computers spanning the length of this pipeline. How on earth are you going to manage and maintain 3,000 miniature computers geographically distributed across the entire United States? If one of them has an issue, you need a way to have that monitoring and capability to know exactly which one it is, where in the pipeline, and send out someone locally to go and resolve the issue. As far as the actual pressure of the gas, oil, water, or whatever is flowing through the pipeline, now you're talking about an IoT sensor, right? Okay, so you hook the sensor up to the Raspberry Pi, measuring the flow rate going through the pipe. If your flow rate is, I don't know, call it 1,000 gallons per hour from east to west, moving, and they're all relatively the same, but at the 2,476 mile mark, all of a sudden the flow is now 0 gallons per hour or per minute.
I feel like I'm back in school
I think
right
you
now.
might have an issue. So what you're doing in that scenario is, hang on a minute. We had a couple thousands of gallons flowing all across the country until we hit this point at which there is 0 flowing. You now know you've got a leak and you need to do something about it because you are spilling oil or water or natural gas or something all over the side of a mountain. So, you can instantaneously determine when things go wrong and where and how to triage them. So,
and I think that's kind of like the main point, right? Yeah. Is like you're collecting all this data. All this data is being pushed up somewhere where you can monitor it. But then if there is an issue, boom, send a patch, fix it right there.
What are you going to do in the old scenario there prior to the IoT? What are you going to do? You're going to drive 3,000 miles along the length of a pipeline to see if there's any spills. You're going to drive literally across the country. It's going to take you a full week of drive time in order to determine, oh, wow, there's a giant hole in this pipe and it's now spilling oil all over the side of a mountain. So, and how often are you going to do that? You're going to drive that every single day. You're just going to drive back and forth and back and forth. So, there's a lot of value there.
Okay, David, just smile real quick and look into the camera. There we go. This is David giving his physics lesson.
Right yeah. You didn't know you were getting a physics lesson today, did you? You thought you were going to talk about containers. No. We're talking physics.
Nice.
Get your calculus book out. I see it. Hey, I'm not joined. I'm in via StreamYard. I see that there have been some questions come through. I don't have comment. I don't have the ability to reply to them in here.
Let's bring them in.
Yeah, I was just going to say that actually. Yeah, you okay? Let me bring in the first one. Actually, Robert, do you have one ready?
Yeah. So here, let's go up to right over here. I think this was one of the first ones from Arjit. No, Carlo brought in the first one. I remember that. So, David, do you think this is from Carlo? David, do you think people will switch to fully cloud-based dev environments in the future as opposed to running things locally, or is that more of a niche better suited for things like DL, AI, etc.?
Fully cloud-based dev environments. No, I don't know. I think there's some people that just simply prefer running things locally. I'm thinking about folks on Twitter that I see running Kubernetes clusters on their laptops, right? They are deving locally on their laptop, whether it's K3s or Minikube or something like that. Versus in the cloud. I think that's really just a developer preference. Some folks don't really care and are quite happy pushing their entire dev infrastructure into a cloud-based environment. Others will run a Raspberry Pi cluster or something right directly on their laptop because they want hands-on experience. So I think that's half and half. I think some folks don't care. Others want it locally.
Yeah, I can agree with that one.
Yeah.
Number 2. Oh, Alessandro, sorry. Did you want to take another one?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Let's go with this.
How can I get started with Yocto? Where to begin? Oh boy, is Sahaj watching? If Sahaj is watching this stream, he's going to have some opinions. So this one is a difficult one to answer. Yocto releases Pokey, which is their reference distribution. Their documentation is actually fairly complex and fairly difficult. You need to go into that undertaking with some background knowledge of Linux software development and compilation. It's not something you would just simply pick up as a brand new developer. To get started, I guess I would have to say over on their website, on the Yocto website, they point you to some reference builds. You can build for a virtual x86 or a BeagleBone Black. They do have a default tutorial for the BeagleBone. From there, you have to learn about layers and recipes and bitbake, append files, and start to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole to understand how to interact with your specific hardware. But I would say the BeagleBone is actually a good starting point for that.
Adding to that real quick, I also want to mention Yocto project does a really good job at offering webinars and kind of like these like courses. And back in the days when we had live events, if you go to any of the ELC conferences, Embedded Linux Conference or Open Source Summit, Yocto usually hosts some sort of a side session where you can go pay for the session. You get your own little piece of hardware. You go in there, you sit to watch several speakers, and they'll teach you this stuff, like how to do recipes and things like that. Yocto's pretty good at that.
They do.
Yeah.
Cool. I just wanted to take a quick one from Shot JR saying, can you clarify which things require registration and have limited attendance and which are drop-in? I think he's referring to the Arm DevSummit, obviously. And the answer to that is that the only thing that requires registration really is the workshops. So if you want to register to the workshops, there's only 50 attendees that can attend each workshop. And 3 of which are actually... you have to pay for it because you actually get hardware in return. The other ones are all free. So everything else is free and you don't need to register to. And I think actually there was a couple of answers on the chat as well by Louise. Thank you, Louise.
And workshops are filling up fast. I think a lot of them might even be done. So go there quick, right? Like if you are really interested, go sign up because they will and or are full.
Mine's almost full. There's a few seats left, but if anyone is interested in containers and IoT devices, they better sign up soon.
And we're about to tease them even more about what they get, right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the clock. I want to make sure that you guys have enough time as well. I see there's more questions in here, but I want to just like pose it over to you. What's your? I'm okay to go over the hour point, but I don't know if other folks are.
Now, I think let's take a quick one from Arjit. Let's give it a quick answer. It's an interesting one. So, David, I have an idea. What if Balena supported fleet management for microcontrollers like Particle.io?
So that is an interesting one. There's 2 issues there, and I see that iShot JR actually partially answered it, which is that those devices cannot run Docker and or containers, at least for now, at least at the present day. So the fleet management aspect of it, I guess there could be, we've talked about internally at Balena some of the dependent devices where you have the smaller devices, the microcontroller class devices connect through a gateway device. So like if you had a Raspberry Pi and it had 10 MCUs attached to it, then really you're pushing your updates to the Raspberry Pi. It's running the containers and the workloads and also managing those, call them sub devices. So it's something we've given some thought to, but like you say, even in this question here, I see that, there are some platforms that already do that. So do we offer any value there? maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I mean, if that problem is already solved, then what do we bring to the table? So I don't know. We've spent some time thinking about it, but I don't have a firm answer for you.
Cool, thank you. I think with this, let's close the answers for now. I mean, we can always go back to more answers later, but I really wanted to get into the details of what your workshop is, right? So we talked about the teaser, and I really want to get into the actual meat of that. So yeah, give us a bit of a lowdown of what it is, and then I think we've got a surprise, right?
I think there's a surprise. You tell me if there's a surprise, but
well, I think you've got something to show, right?
Yeah. So let's see here, Robert. Do you have? I've got some scissors ready. Now, why would I need?
I have a knife.
You got a knife? Hold on a minute.
What's going on?
What's going on here? All right. So let's see what we've got here. Let's do the unboxing first, because that will flow into the conversation then about what the workshop actually is. Robert, you got yours ready?
I have mine too, but I think I'll unbox mine with you. So yeah, here's my kit.
Okay.
From SparkFun for Arm DevSummit.
Yeah.
I'll unbox mine on the side, but I'll let you talk, and I'll just kind of like be excited with you.
Okay. So I got this in the mail yesterday or 2 days ago now, and I've been waiting to open it up. So we're going to find out what is inside of it. It is the hardware for my workshop. So let's cut that one. Okay, cut that. Now I'm trying to figure out, my camera's backwards. Everything up is down and down is up. So hold on, I apologize there. All right, so let's have a look inside. Okay, can everyone still see? Looks like it. All right. Well, right away, I see we've got a Pi 3 Model A Plus. We'll go into detail in a moment. A Raspberry Pi Sense hat. Power supply, gonna need that, sure. And an SD card down there on the bottom, 16 gigs, that's plenty. All right, the doing in my workshop is helping folks build their very first IoT device. And it's called Containers Over the Air, and it's using Balena Cloud. And the way that we're gonna do that is we're gonna take a Raspberry Pi plus a Sense hat, and we're gonna install Balena Cloud. Well, we're gonna install Balena onto the Pi and then push a ready-made container that I've got built that takes advantage of the environmental sensors that are on the Sense hat and display the data in a Grafana dashboard. So you come away with a fully functioning IoT device. When you are done with the workshop, you've got yourself a built IoT endpoint. So the Raspberry Pi 3, let's open this up. Let's take.
While you do that,
Yep.
there was a question: why did you pick A plus?
Size.
If you know the answer.
The size of the A is a little smaller, a little thinner, and we're going over the air. There's no Ethernet port on an A. So I did this on purpose. Now, it does mandate then that you have Wi-Fi set up, but the reason is that lower footprint, lower height, I should say, no Ethernet, and quite honestly, they're a few dollars cheaper. I wanted folks to be able to, save a few bucks. So there is a Raspberry Pi 3A. In here is a Sense hat. A Sense hat actually has a lot of capability, but really the one that we care about in this workshop is the environmental sensor. So the Sense hat has the RGB LED. It has a little joystick on it as well. we're not going to make use of those features, but what we are going to make use of is the temperature, humidity, and barometric pressure. So we're going to just use the BME 280 sensor that's on it for the workshop. But pretty simple. You just attach them, put them together. Again, another reason for the A, same size as the Sense hat. The B sticks out further. And then, of course, power supply and SD card. And you've got yourself your first IoT device right there. Simple as that. Just put them together, and then we'll push some software to it. Change my camera back now.
It's pretty cool. I don't even have an A plus yet. Now I have one.
You got one now. There it is. There's your first A. Yeah.
I was following along, so I have my little kit.
So there you go. That's the hardware for the kit right there. So we're going to build a environmental sensor and push software to it.
How long is the workshop going to be?
The workshop is, let me take a quick peek, an hour and a half. It's on Thursday, October 8th at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. So hour and a half is all we'll need. We'll go through the Balena cloud setup. We'll go through your container creation. We'll go through pushing the container to the device. And at the end of it, you've got an IoT endpoint.
Awesome.
I was asking you, I think, sorry, Alessandro, do you want to finish something?
No, I was just joking about the fact that I think you're still looking at your box, aren't you?
Me? Oh, yeah, I'm super excited. Now, I feel like, let's end this call right now. I'm just going to start building things. No, I was actually talking to David on Discord. Maybe one day we could also build something to utilize those LEDs, because from my understanding is that we're not going to use the LEDs in this particular workshop.
So this was going to be a surprise, but we actually will make use of them.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, so that was one of the first things. I was like, I want to use those LEDs. It's going to be taught in the workshop. Dave's like, nope, not going to use it. So cool.
All right.
Features on this.
Cat's out of the bag. Yes, yeah. They're gonna get used.
That is the ultimate teaser right there.
Don't say how, though. Don't say how.
I won't say how. No.
Cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, it's actually, I think your workshop is really about to get full. So I'm a bit bummed because I don't think I'm not going to be able to see it in action, but I'll definitely see it afterwards and probably get the instructions.
You were my co-host for it. You're not co-hosting it, Alessandro?
I'm not co-hosting? I didn't know about that.
No, I'm teasing you. Although there is going to be ARM attendance as well. It may be Rob's team or somebody, or other Rob, not you, Robert. Unless it is you, but there.
I might join. I'm trying to get involved with as many workshops as possible. Overlap with something else, but I'm trying to.
Yeah. And unfortunately, my workshop actually overlaps with a session or two that I really wanted to attend and watch. But I'll catch those. I guess that's one of the nice things about a virtual Dev Summit as opposed to the real live in-person one, is that I would not have been able to see those. But now in this scenario, I'll just be able to go back and watch them later.
Yeah. On that note, we're also working out a way to get all of these videos hosted forever. So you'll get to you go watch them live, awesome, and then they'll be hosted somewhere for a while. But we want to figure out a way to get some of these really good ones hosted somewhere forever. Maybe on this channel.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, did you have anything else that you wanted to tease?
Well, I'm thinking, so folks who, because my workshop is almost full, if you're not able to get in, I have an article that was published today. Alessandro, you might have the link to Hackspace Magazine. If you want to drop that in for folks to check out, If they can't get into my workshop, the next best thing, it's not a full substitute, but it's a close substitute.
I'm getting it up.
Yeah, there's an article that Raspberry Pi Hackspace magazine published. I just noticed it today, actually, that might help folks have some of the same experience.
So
there it is.
It was funny because I saw your face on this magazine this morning, and I was like, "Look, David." so this is it's issue 35, and it's come out today. And here is actually I'm clicking on the wrong screen. So yeah, this is actually an article that you've written, right? That
helped write. They did a big chunk of the writing. Yeah, and that's funny because I've never even seen that picture. I don't know where they got that picture of me. They're stalking me. I got to figure out where that came from. I kind of like it. I think I want it.
I think it's on the Arm Innovator webpage, right? I think it's.
It is.
Yeah, I think it's your picture as an innovator.
Man, I don't even remember it.
You were eating
where did you get that picture?
We were eating at one of the events, and we were just like, "Hey, David, look over here real quick." And you're like,
yeah, seriously. Louise took a candid shot of me. I kind of want it.
I actually wanted to mention something else about this magazine. There's also another article in which you're kind of involved in as well. In the sense that, well, kind of. I mean, it talks about the Rosetta at home, right? It talks about the work. It's in there. It's the work that the Rosetta team has done to bring Rosetta at home on ARM. And I know you've been involved in a lot of the efforts, the early efforts actually, to actually port some of the software.
Yeah.
Right?
That was a fun project that goes back a few months now, when the whole pandemic kind of started and kind of picked up steam. A couple community members, myself included, wanted to deploy. I mean, my house is covered in Raspberry Pis, right? So I have all these spare miniature computers laying around. So I wanted to see what it would take to get folding at home running on them. Now, folding at home is a different project, and that one took a lot more effort, and that was handled by a different team. And I think there's a talk about that at Arm DevSummit, so folks should really, really check that one out as well. But the initial, so this article is talking about the folding at home effort. Yeah. This one is more recent. Yeah, the Rosetta at home was the first one, and I did help with that one as well. And then Balena had a big push for bringing devices online around the world to help crunch. Those are still running. There's a bunch of them still running.
David, you mentioned it actually. The Dev Summit, Lloyd Watts from Neocortex. He's gonna be attending a session at Arm Dev Summit. So if
that'll
this kind of stuff does interest you, which it should, because it's pretty much like a global thing.
Yeah, super cool.
I think it'll be a great session to watch. Yeah. CEO of Neocortex.
Definitely, we don't want to miss that one.
Cool. Thanks for your efforts, David. This is really cool. And there is a nice channel. I think it's a Crunch on Arm, where you guys form this team where you can sign up for. And in the Discord server, there's a Crunch on Arm channel where people share stats and what's happening in that world. Pretty cool. Great effort.
Cool. Well, David, thank you so much. I mean, that was it was really awesome to get your the sneak peek of your workshop and hear more about your personal story. I mean, even though I've heard it a few times, but there's always a couple of things that you haven't said before, so it's always interesting. Actually.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys.
Well,
I appreciate
it. So much. Speak soon, David.
David, feel free to stick around in the background if you want to hear from our next guest. Thank you.
I absolutely do want to hear from your next guest. So just toss me into the green room and I'm going to hang out and watch.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
And with that, we'll bring in our next guest, Mac. He's actually a colleague that works at ARM, and he's going to speak to you about the workshop that he's running So, Mac, welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Well,
Thanks a lot for having me. And I appreciate it. It was a pleasant surprise when you contacted me this morning and said, "Hey, we got a spot for you." And I would have shaved if I would have known ahead of time. But I'm excited to be here. So thanks a lot.
Yeah.
it was very last minute. I mean, you actually said it. It happened this morning when I contacted you. Actually, it was probably 5 o'clock your time when a.m. with a message.
Yeah.
You were asleep, obviously. But,
Yeah, I have young kids. They were bothering me at that time, so I was up. No problem.
Oh man, I hope I didn't wake you up. But
No
no,
problem.
it's really great to have you on. It's really exciting to hear about another workshop, and I think yours is super interesting. And I was keen to hear from you. And I know we've got another little unboxing as well. So I'm, I guess let's get started with what is the workshop? Why did you get involved in this workshop in the first place?
Yeah, so I'm a technical account manager in our Pelion device management group, and I have the pleasure of working with partners. And we're doing a session at DevSummit with partner Cypress Semiconductor. They're now part of Infineon, but we're doing a session collaborating with them on using their hardware and our device management solution and our embedded software.
Cool.
So I can go into it more if you'd like.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, I guess should we talk about the actual kind of like what is the intent of the workshop? And
Yeah.
I guess what I'm interested, because I've never actually seen the workshop yet, or I haven't seen the content, right? I'm curious to know what people can expect from it in terms of like what do you expect someone to learn from this workshop? I guess that's like my kind of quick question.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So the session is focused on secure IoT lifecycle management. So, and particularly, we're working with microcontroller, low power systems, and with IoT, we start connecting lots of systems together, and they're on networks, and you need to make sure they're secure. So a lot of features, you're something like this where it's got a secure identity. It's secure in what it is allowed to connect to and run, what software it can run, and what software it can download when you're doing, particularly like a firmware update. All those things are critical. And so now, with IoT, you're getting a lot of those security features down in low power microcontrollers that are extremely capable, but they don't draw as much power, and they can be battery powered. You can have them sensing things and monitoring things and controlling things out in the world, but do that securely with the confidence that they're secure. So we're in particular, so for this class, we are using Cypress PSoC64, which is a new hardware platform from Cypress, and it includes critical security features like an immutable root of trust, the ability to provision certificates into the secure storage and then like lock it away, so kind of like a secure element, and it does secure boot, so that in the hardware it can verify that the code that you just pushed to it over the air is signed correctly, and it won't run if it's not correct, and you get what you it's from an authentic party, and so really important to keep your systems working correctly. So the session we're going to do is it's really going to be hands-on. So we are going to talk about platform security architecture concepts throughout the class. So that's the ARM kind of manifesto for security. We're going to use Embed OS operating system that runs on the device. We're going to use Pelion device management. So there's a client that runs on the device, and then you connect to the service that's running in the cloud. And we're going to do firmware updates over the air. So with the security and what it is able to boot and able to download, so it won't even download a payload unless it's been signed correctly. So it's a good layer of security that we believe is really important. So I know that so this is the hardware. So if you sign up for the class, I know we have a 50% off promo code. You get the hardware. I have it unboxed already, but I can unbox one if you'd like.
Ooh,
sorry.
you got another one.
Yeah, so I have more, but yeah, there'll be more shipping out. So I know they're available. Yeah, really looking forward to the class.
And what's really cool is that, we all talk about IoT, right? And IoT security, and actually, and not just security updates, right? Updates over the air. And you're going to teach how to do all that. Like all this, like, at the end of the day, these are all the hard things that people don't really want to don't really want to think about when they're building their IoT devices. Or at least, in terms of, like, we talked about software developers earlier, right? If you're a software developer, you usually don't think about how am I going to update my device once it's in the field, right? And I think it's interesting that in one workshop here, you're going to cover not just how to update it, but also how to securely make sure that it boots and all the other features that you talked about. So it's going to be a lot. It seems like it's got a lot of stuff to be an hour and a half, right?
Yeah, it's going to be really packed. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
cool.
and I will say, the goal is, like, how do we make it easier? We don't want security to be like, like developers to be like, I gotta work through this enormous complexity. And I'm not saying it's super easy. I'm saying it's the right complexity to make it to where you want to add it to your product and do the right thing for IoT.
Can I ask what are some of the prerequisites for this particular workshop? I mean, like, if I bring a developer platform like my MacBook or my Windows machine, what would be some of the prereqs here that a developer might want to think about or that they need to attend this?
Yeah, so we are using Embed Studio. It's a development environment for building Embed OS apps, and that runs on Windows, Mac, and Linux. And it's got its own Python environment, so we're going to be doing some Python tools in that environment. There's a little bit of driver stuff to get configured, but that's about it. So the Pelion device management is hosted online. You get an account, and then you can access APIs and management console to handle your devices. But basically, if you have a computer and Embed Studio installed, and that is plenty. The code is actually will be published to GitHub, so it's all open source. We'll have tutorials, and that's really all you need.
That's amazing. Yeah, thanks for answering that. You heard it. And pretty much any developer box or using your personal laptop should just be fine. Your desktop.
Yep.
Yeah, and as you said, I think, Mac, you mentioned something interesting. All the workshops will have, post event, they will allow every developer that attends the workshop to actually access all the information that's shared, all the code, so you can actually run this, offline afterwards as well. So it's going to be kind of something else that you've got in your bag. So it's going to be interesting to attend. And yeah, thank you. That was great. Actually, show us the board for last few minutes.
Sure. Yeah, I can describe a few of the features. So it connects to Wi-Fi. It's got Wi-Fi Bluetooth chip here that works with the microcontroller. You have all the microcontroller has it's dual core, so you have a second core that's running all the security side things. It's got a capacitive touch slider and buttons, which we'll be using in the class. So it's a really full-featured hardware and really useful.
Cool.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So one last time, I think we just want to say that there's this code that you can use for this workshop. So if you're interested in knowing more about security and over-the-air updates and all the other great stuff that Mac talked about, then this is your link. And I think we'll all see you there. I mean, the three of us will definitely be there. David will also be there. I would say, should we do something? Should we bring David back in and just say goodbye to everyone all together?
Yeah, let's do it.
I think David is ready, right? There you go.
I was hanging out listening. That's awesome. That sounds like a super cool workshop, Mac.
Yeah, it was a test to see if you were still listening.
No, I was taking a nap. I mean, I said you could take a nap, so I was taking.
No, awesome. So thank you guys. Thank you, Mac and David, both for being on. It was really a pleasure to have you talk about what you do in life as well as what you do for Arm DevSummit. So it was really cool. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So are we closing out now, Alessandro?
Go on, it's all you.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to say, everyone, thank you for watching. David, Mac, as always, to my amazing co-host over here, Alessandro, from one co-host to another. Yeah. And everyone who's watching, thank you so much. If you have any questions or if you seem to have missed something in this live broadcast, everything that we talked about with regards to URLs, links, and access to the promo code that we printed on the screen, everything will be in the description. Make sure you check that out. And stay tuned for next week's episode on
TinyML. So if you're interested in machine learning on little devices, embedded devices, then you should join next week's talk or show. It will also have a lot of interesting aspects, or I mean, at least I guess it will not just be TinyML on its own without any interesting use case, but it will actually be around how do we make our world better with TinyML. So stay tuned.
Cheers to everyone.
Thank
and
you.
I hope you had a nice innovation coffee.